start again. It's a redskins.
What's going on, everybody? It's the Bull Show, aka Aidan, and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be talking about the update in relation to Coby White. Obviously, in the last video, we had the Dallas Mavericks game reaction. We're all happy and we're all smiling from ear to ear. It's a very positive time to be a Chicago Bulls fan, and we're going to kick things off with a little bit more positivity about the return of the Coby White. And of course, we saw in the last video that I did make, it was no contact in relation to Coby White. He was returning. He was getting better, but now we have even better updates to provide for you guys today. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bull Show, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls and the potential return of Coby White as it edges ever so closer to the return of Coby White. I'm very happy by this news, and ladies and gentlemen, the news that I'm going to have for you is that Coby White is now available and allegedly playing 5-on-5 contact in relation to training. He's pretty much back to full team training for the Chicago Bulls, which means that he is ever now so closer to potentially playing for this team. We saw, I believe it was 2 days ago, he was assigned to the G League, and a couple of hours later, he was brought back up to the Chicago Bulls main team. I think this is to keep the training up for Coby White so he can practice with the G League team and also practice with the main guys, just getting some reps up, getting some time in and working in the gym, just working very hard to try and get back into game shape. I think most teams would probably do this with their players, especially one that is very hard working like Coby White. But he is training now. He's getting his reps up. He's shooting the ball. And it looks all positive in relation to Coby White. And we could potentially see a return for Coby White being very, very imminent. Ever so closer. Day by day, we are getting closer to seeing Coby White return on that court, which is the biggest positive to take away from this situation, because I did remember a situation where the very first time we talked about Coby White, it was a couple months ago, and he ended up hurting his shoulder, and it was a very sad time when we were talking about Coby White, because he had a really phenomenal end to the season, and we all thought that this was his time to try and step up, work very hard in the offseason. He's going to have a full offseason ahead of him, and he could potentially come back and return as a really solid player. Obviously, that injury really affected him. He didn't really get a whole preseason training camp and summer to really improve on his game. He was more focused on rehabbing and working on other avenues. And that is unfortunate. He pretty much missed a lot of time in relation to that. However, obviously with the news a long time ago now that Lonzo Ball was signing, that we kind of got to see Coby White in many ways not have all of the pressure, all of the highlight, the spotlight on him, and he was able to just get to work and just do the things that he has to do to get back into the gym and get back to playing shape, which has now resulted in where we are today, where he is now training with the Chicago Bulls team, training with our G League team. He could potentially get some game time over the next few games, and that is where I'm very happy. Now, for many people, they're saying, what's going to happen when Coby White returns to the team? What is our rotation going to look like? Will he take minutes away from other players? And from my understanding, Billy Donovan said in a press conference that he's going to try and have a 10-man rotation in relation to the Chicago Bulls and just how we see us playing, which means that usually we play an 8 to 9 man rotation. That's basically the norm for the Chicago Bulls in this season. And now it's going to get switched up because Coby White will return and he will obviously get game time. Coby White demands game time pretty much just by his status and his shooting ability, which is exactly what we need off of that bench. We've all been saying it, and it could potentially reign true once he returns. We do need bench scoring, and I think he provides that in abundance, and hopefully he can show that over a consistent period of time. But the 10-man rotation means that we won't see lack of minutes from players like Ayo Dosunmu, who many people were worrying about in relation to Coby White. Ayo might not get enough minutes. I think that 10-man rotation is basically because we don't want to see Ayo not get any minutes, because he's definitely showing out for the Chicago Bulls at the moment. That obviously means that we could potentially see a bench lineup of Alex Caruso, Coby White, Ayo Dosunmu, Derrick Jones Jr., Tony Bradley, or Alize Johnson, depending on the team that we'll be facing and what we need from that position. We have a 5-man rotation off of that bench that could be a very good bench if they do get some time and chemistry together. And that's not to mention as well, with a 10-man rotation, it's not going to be just bench and just starters. We will see a very similar thing where DeMar DeRozan will come in for the bench unit, and we might see some of the bench unit play with a lot of the starters. For example, we see Alex Caruso play with the bulk of the starters because at the end of the day, he may be a bench player, but he does contribute in the starting lineup. We also see DeMar DeRozan come off of the bench at times, or not necessarily come off the bench, but play with the bench unit because that seems to be the best way we could get our offense going when he is coming off of the bench and taking a lot of the shots. Now, that rotation, I don't really know if that's going to stay the same or not. I don't know if we're going to see DeMar DeRozan go to the bench. We're going to see Zach play with the bench unit regardless of that. I don't know about the rotation of the team, but the minutes of the team doesn't look like it's going to be a hindrance too much to players like Ayo and Caruso, which were the biggest worries coming in to Coby White's return, which is a positive sign all the way around. Now, I'm going to take a guess of when I expect Coby White to return, because this is probably the biggest one to discuss because he's traveling on the Western Conference trip. That's another great sign for the Chicago Bulls. He will be traveling on this Western Conference trip, and he may get some game time somewhere in and around the Chicago Bulls and this Western Conference trip. Now, the next game against the Golden State Warriors, I honestly don't see Coby White playing then. He just got back into training. That game is relatively soon, only a couple of days. I think that's very early to see Coby White kind of return against the Golden State Warriors. But then after that, we got back-to-backs. We got a game against the Los Angeles Clippers and a game against the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, of course, two very fantastic teams there, and that's definitely something that we may see Coby White return in one of those games, just because we might need that extra boost in scoring. But I think for a safer option, I'm going to say he doesn't return against these two teams. And hopefully that won't be a bad thing going into those two games, and hopefully we can pull out a win in those areas as well. But I see Coby White returning against the Portland Trail Blazers away from home. I think this is the game where we're going to see Coby White return for a number of reasons. One, obviously, through a tough stretch of games, you see the Warriors, you see the Clippers, you see the Lakers. At the end of the day, obviously those teams are not all of those teams are doing well technically. I don't think the Lakers are doing particularly well at the moment. The Clippers are up and down team, and even Portland are an up and down team. But I feel like a back-to-back is probably not the best situation to put Coby White in. So maybe you get that extra couple of days, you put him in that game against the Portland Trail Blazers, a game where hopefully we could come out as the favorites and potentially win that game, while implementing Coby White slowly into the rotation. I don't see the point in rushing him in. I don't see the point in making him play against the Clippers and then he has to play a back-to-back straight away. I don't see the point in that. So unless it's the Lakers game that he's looking at and he could potentially play in, if it's not that game, then I see it being the Portland game. I see that game being the potential to see Coby White play in. And of course, we won't know until obviously we get more updates with Billy Donovan and the coaching staff and the health department of the team. We won't know exactly the return of Coby White, but we now know if he's traveling in the West, there's a high chance he could be playing in one of these games, whether it's the Warriors game, which would be very unlikely for me, the Clippers or the Lakers, Portland, or the Denver Nuggets. One of those games it looks like Coby White could potentially participate in, which we hope to see a really good Coby White return. But of course, if it isn't the case and he does come back and he is a little bit off the pace, then I think we need to require a lot of patience. But the best news for Coby White, he is coming back very, very soon. And keep your eyes out for any game, because Coby White could return at any given time right now. It does seem that it's coming sooner than later. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Just a little bit of an update provided about Coby White. At the end of the day, there will probably be more videos in relation to Coby White. He is the big news story at the moment for this team. We continue to win. The positivity is running wild with the Bulls, and Coby White, I think, adds another factor of positivity into the team with his return coming closer and closer. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful and safe day, Bulls Nation. The next video, I'll be talking about how important this Western Conference trip is, because this is the first time we will be going out west, and we're going to be seeing a lot of away games. We're going to be seeing a lot of away fans, and we are versing good quality teams. So I want to talk about the importance of getting out of this Western Conference trip with a good positive record, and let's see if we can do it. Take care, and peace.